journey that I haven't been on before. I would love to start with you, Fleur. Please tell us a little bit about your inspiration to tell this story. I know you're working off of a script, so how did the script find itself to you, and how did you want to make it?
I think when Stephen Bouillet explained me the script, I was working on the sci-fi picture that I was writing, and at the same time I was struggling to have peace. I was doing IVF for years, doing adoption meetings. So when I read the script, I could totally feel I was like Mia and Orion, like discovered that I was feeling like I was going through absolute death, and I don't know, so like the way the world is evolving, like politically, I think it made a lot of sense to me to like the test that doesn't make any sense.
And we were just talking a little bit inside. You have told me that for the character Mia, you actually had Elizabeth in mind for a while, so tell us a little bit about that before I bring Elizabeth and Alicia.
I think that Alicia has that connection that is like so, I don't know, that you like super rare, that is so true and intimate and at the same time so powerful that it's a great connection with the audience, and I knew she was going to be the bridge for the people to feel like they are tested themselves, because you need to feel those emotions in a very truthful way.
And truly, I feel like we are in a way like audience in Mia's journey as well, because we have no idea where this assessment is going to go. So I would love to bring you in next, Elizabeth. Tell me a little bit about what you were most excited about exploring through Mia, this determined, practical, pragmatic, very smart woman. What drew you to her?
I think it was really the film as a whole that I was most excited about. I really love watching films where the rules of the world are slightly separate from ours. Mm-hmm. I think it allows for a lot of creative ways to play as an actor. And so within this film, it wasn't just the rules of the world, there's also the rules within this dynamic and the situation that these three characters are in with one another, that I found to be a really exciting opportunity to find a playful tone while also suggesting huge themes in our world, without messaging to people what they should take away from it, but more just thinking about these much larger ideas, whether it's our use of using up resources, people trying to live longer, live transhumanist movements or whatever. And so I was excited by all the themes in the film, and then when Fleur ended up speaking about with Mia, that felt like a great end, was just her relationship to kind of a sense of wildness and her natural connection to nature, obviously with her work, and the relationship she has with the water, which I don't personally have a great relationship with water personality, because of course she swim in open water and it's terrifying.
You were really interested.
I was hardly moving. It was such crazy currents that I was just swimming my little butt off and going nowhere because the current was so strong. Anyway, I'm derailing because I'm very circuitous and I answer questions. But that's why I wanted to do this project. And Fleur's work as a filmmaker for music videos, I found so visually creative, such interesting composition and light and design and faces that she would find, and I was just really excited to see what she was going to do with this film.
Thank you. And Alicia, I would love to ask you, your character, Virginia, is really the one who takes us all in this crazy journey that we have no idea where it's going to go. Tell me a little bit about how you constructed her range of ages. You're playing a baby and a toddler and someone older, and the sky is the limit with what you do with this performance. So tell us a little bit about doing that.
It started with obviously a lot of conversations between Fleur and I too, when I read the script the first time, felt like that mystery was there. I was too wondering where is this heading and who's this woman and what does she want? And I think then later on, one great thing that Fleur started to do, which is kind of works for me, she just without any text, she just started to text the images. people in weird shapes on her head. You know what I mean? You know, and I was like, I love it, nothing more. And I was like, I like her. And I did it. I felt things and I saw things and like my, imagination and creativity started going. And then I think when I started to read, I also started to feel like that there were different ages and I wanted to kind of see if there were. So I started to put in different numbers and different scenes to see if I could, find physicality that kind of, could relate different ages and then therefore maybe put them through slightly different tests. It was pretty terrifying to be honest that day. Apart from the fact that Lizzie was already attached when I read it, and I thought that would be, I'm such an admirer of her work, and I felt that could also be something quite interesting in that specific relationship. And that was something we discussed quite early on with Fleur as well, about how, yes, you could have read the script as her coming in and kind of like a bulldozer, taking this couple through these tests. But I felt like deep down that we wanted to develop this connection and how these women actually, like on a some level, are going through something very similar. And so that was quite at the heart of something I really cared for and wanted the character.
Wonderful, thank you. And Elizabeth, I actually want to ask you, because obviously everything Virginia does is a surprise to your character and a surprise to the audience, but as an actor, were you also surprised by some aspects of her performance or to the extremes that she was going to go that you didn't know about that maybe informed your own way of performing and approaching the act?
I think every day was a discovery and a surprise. I think we'd always have some sort of map with blocking and rehearsal, and like what Alicia is saying about the dynamic between the two of us, I think the thing that I hadn't thought about when we started, we did a few days of rehearsal and chatting about characters and arcs and relationships, the past lives, the rules of the world that they're all inhabiting, and the thing that I found really exciting was this element of when their alliances shift and they're no longer opposing heads, but they're finding something really sweet and tender between the two of them. And that wasn't really necessarily on the page, and it was something that Alicia brought to the relationship that I was so surprised and excited to start moving in that direction. And then when that becomes betrayed, what that feels like when you start to feel so vulnerable and exposed and trusting someone. And those were things that, aren't very, there is some part of it's referenced in the final scene between the two of them, but I think it all helped that final scene have a bit more of a dynamic, more consequence because of the relationship we watched them build.
And it was also like the last scene. It was
the last scene.
was very helpful.
Did you have order generally to kind of keep up with the headspace?
No, exteriors in a different country.
I was so amazed how they deal with it, because we did the first 10 minutes and with all the exterior, so it means like also entering the house, and then you have the following and everything. It is like the fire scene, so before like all the beginning of the film, so yeah, it was I don't feel like he did it.
And I do want to follow that up with a very design-specific question, because I just really absolutely adore the production design in this movie. It's very much related to our own world, but I think you were saying, Elizabeth, that is also outside of our own world. It has a bit of a 70s vibe. You know that it's a sci-fi, but it doesn't have this cliche way of telling a sci-fi story with super minimalistic set. So tell me a little bit about your approach to production design, which is very unique and specific.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a sci-fi, but most of the time I feel like we see always the same thing, and also that it's so cool, like I cannot, like, I'm only looking at the visual of it, and I cannot enter the story and feel for the characters, and for me, like, the most important was, like, them and what they were doing. So I don't want it to be, like, I don't know, too far from us, so I was going to reference from like regular futurism in the 70s. So I did into that, and also with the production designer, when we first scouted the Tenerife, it's like so windy, it's volcanic, there is, you can use the material that are there, so then it gives. And also the fact that Mia is working with plants, there's no forest anymore, so there's no wood, so it gives you a lot to then build the house with things like it's glass. The glass is made of sand. Like where Ariane is working from is it's kind of nanotechnology in the sand of the so all that makes sense in some way. Even if you don't understand it when you watch, it makes sense in the film. And also, I thought it was very important that each of their space, like Mia's greenhouse, she can fix and touch everything. It exists. It's tangible. Like, it's real and raw and almost old school. And Ariane is in something that is so real that it doesn't exist, that is empty. And so it makes sense with who they are. And Virginia, in the end, she has little pieces of all she's been through, and you understand how she doesn't come from the same background, and how they are wealthy and more lucky than her.
And I want to ask you, Alicia and Elizabeth, does it inform your performance and help you in any way to be in these sets, in these very specifically designed sets, to get into the mindset of your characters and the story? How was that instrumental for you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's such a gift. I think for me it starts with when you go to your first costume fitting. That's like the first step. And suddenly the character just kind of starts to come to life, and then you get to the set. And actually, then you did start in Tenerife, and that was so interesting because it was wildfires going at the same time. It was extreme heat. It was wind that made you go crazy. And it's like you're in the element, and it's like you can't but be part of that and have it affect you. And that was definitely the same thing with KTM's incredible sets. And it was nice because we were there for a few weeks, and it became our stage in a way. And it was a lot of details, and it was that thing of going around and getting to know the space. And so it was, I think it gave a lot.
Well, as much as I initially was frustrated with the idea of shooting all the exteriors first, because a lot of them are on stitches to the entire arc of the film, I found that to be just a technical challenge, but who cares, because it doesn't matter if it works or it doesn't work, and it's boring to an audience to hear, so I don't talk about it. But no, you did. And so what was really informative of being in Tenerife is we then could go on to these stages with the life of what that was. And I actually am so grateful that we did it, because if we had done it in reverse, I feel like I would have thought, oh shoot, like I would have had a different
it was so
way of holding my
intense.
body in space. Yeah, he really had to survive. And the other thing that was so miraculous with Jan's design is that greenhouse was absolutely real. Every single thing in it was living. The water system was functioning. The whole thing was fully practical, and we set it on fire. And only in an independent film do you make something so real and detailed, and then you just set it on fire. It was so intense for us all, I think, to watch it in real. We didn't know how big the fire was going to be, and we assumed to save some from the glass breaking. And so we stayed as long as we could in the shot before it got a little too close. But I've never had an experience that felt like you really felt the environment in the way that we were able to and got to, and the allowance that everyone gave us to do that, I felt was really important for all of us.